Today is Easter Sunday, and the highest holy day of the Christian year, and accordingly, our speaker today is Tom Baker. It's been observed that Tom might be a bit like this church. He's a professional counselor, longtime student of the Casey readings, teacher of A Course in Miracles, and former Catholic priest. Now, this church has been known to venture into quite a number of areas itself, including, but not limited to, transcendental psychic readings, tarot, astrology, laying out of hands, massage, spiritual healing, Reiki, quantum touch, matrix energetics, and extraterrestrial communication. Now, in both cases, such an eclectic mixture of activities could be described as either broadly multidisciplined or hopelessly scattered, depending on your point of view. I'll go with broadly multidisciplined. And I anticipate that Tom will, as always, draw on his vast and diverse resources as he shares his Easter message today. So please welcome Tom Baker.
Thank you, everybody. Almost never do you run into anybody who speaks Latin. It's so great to hear. Yeah, so wonderful. For the ancient language. Well, someone was telling me this last week that they had gone to an Orthodox Mass. And at the Mass, the atmosphere, they said, was oppressive because there was so much talk about how sinful we are and how sorry we should be. She said she could hardly breathe. The atmosphere was so oppressive. She couldn't wait to be out of there. Lord have mercy, she said. I was so glad to be out into the fresh air. Now here all the talk about being a sinner, being bad. Contrast this with the account Edgar Casey gave of Jesus walking to the cross. He told jokes to the people and laughed with the people in the crowd. In fact, it is rare to hear of anyone talking of Jesus laughing at all. Our portrait of Jesus is essentially the suffering Jesus, the dying Jesus on the cross, the last 3 hours of his life becoming the lifelong portrait of this, the happiest man who ever lived. We know the man of sorrows. We can picture Jesus weeping over Jerusalem, just as Jesus weeps over Kiev and Mariupol. The tear-stained Jesus is easy to imagine. But the joyful Jesus, think of that, tearing off a piece of bread from a hot loaf of bread and gulping down a bit of wine. It's like if he were up here, Jesus would say, Oh, it's hard to get off, but my miraculous strength, I did it. And he would hope that this was vodka, not water. It's water. We can turn it into wine. We don't think of Jesus like that. We don't think of happy, celebrating Jesus. Did you know that Judas was the guest of honor at the Last Supper? The person sharing the bread with the host was the guest of honor at the supper. That was Judas. Jesus made it as good for Judas as possible, even when he was betraying Jesus. We don't know that Jesus very well. There was a man who whistled at Auschwitz. Think of that. A man in a place of horror and death and sadness, still whistling. Now, you've got to be calm and at peace when you whistle. You can't be nervous. I'm a little nervous. Let's see how I do it. Hardly at all. You have to be at peace in order to whistle. There you go. There. Good. That's a Jesus whistle to the front row. But there was a man at Auschwitz who whistled. I think that was Jesus. The whistler and the joke teller walking to the hill and the cross from which he would step into death, but then emerge from the tomb on Sunday alive and radiant. We know from the Gospels that Jesus liked to party. He loved to gather with his friends and neighbors for feasts, processions, and miracles. Jesus actually suffered very little in his life. You know, it usually took you 2 days to die on the cross. Jesus died in 3 hours. That's not very long. He was not a suffering kind of man. According to Edgar Casey, he was about 6 feet tall, 175 pounds, his hair reddish, his eyes bright and kind. And according to Casey, Jesus was educated abroad in Egypt and Persia and India, where he learned to meditate and heal. There's a story from one of those monasteries in India, which tells a Jewish man named Yeshua, who got himself run out of town because he was teaching the untouchables and outcasts that they too were the children of the Most High. Jesus championing the poor was always part of his message. He held his hand out for the persecuted, showcased the invisible, and most of all, he ate with people who were unclean and people on the fringes of society, like tax collectors and zealots and prostitutes, the unpopular kids in the class. He loved them. But Jesus was kind, but he wasn't grim or bleak or pessimistic. The good thing he did was he shared his joy with others. That's why I think people got well around him. People with full stomachs carrying their crutches and canes and braces, with eyes no longer blind and ears no longer deaf. The crowd was ready to laugh and cheer and scribble things down that Jesus said on their little tablets. People began to feel whole around Jesus. When we translated the Aramaic word whole into the English word perfect, we placed Jesus out of reach. When Jesus says that you must be as whole as your heavenly Father is whole, it feels much different than to say to be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Jesus simply asked us to be complete, not perfect in our way. I wrote a poem once, and this was a poem that I kind of wrote in a trance, because after I wrote it, I had to kind of shake myself, as if I really had been someone else in this poem. The poem is called An Apostle's Testimony, and it's from what I believe to be an apostle's perspective of Jesus. It goes like this. I cannot say I know him. He is not like that. You were known by him and listened for your name. I have rested in his speech and allowed his words to flutter in my chest like expectation. Sometimes he is angry, his rage tangling in his speech like flame in a tree. Then he drops his hands and weeps. Because of this, some say he's mad, but I think not. No madman possesses his dignity, or with his possession details the history of a lie. He touches lepers, reaches into the teeming crater of a face and smears his spittle. and what a demon's excrement has made to rot and stink. And in the shadow of his withdrawing hand, the face remembers itself as holy. He is a question to us, but he insists that he is the answer to who we are. Jesus is the ideal person. He is the pattern of human beings. He's the hero of our lives. In our society, Jesus is mostly forgotten, except on Christmas and Easter. At Christmas, the light is born into the world. On Good Friday, the light is extinguished. Then on Easter, the light, the man, the loving smile returns. We usually speak of Jesus in the past tense. What did he look like then? How did he act with people? Did he have any fun? To speak of Jesus in the past tense is to miss the point of the resurrection. Jesus is risen, is present with us. He is brother, his friend, his comfort. He saves us from our own condemnation, not God's condemnation. God would never condemn us. It's not the way God works. But we have condemned ourselves. And Jesus says, no, turn away from that picture of yourself. Do not see yourself like me, the man on the cross, but see yourself as risen, as alive today, tomorrow. Happy Easter. He is risen.